I had some technical difficulties this evening. Restream had a little bit of a change of pace, but it's quite all right. Welcome back to Collaborate and Pull Together, a podcast where we highlight all things positive on and off the table. Tonight, I have some special guests joining me. We have the founders of Virginia Arm Wrestling League, Josh Harding and Daniel Swartz. Not to be confused with Daniel Schwartz. Many tournaments we've had, some confusion in that. And we also will have Luke Pulscher join us as well. I believe he is having some technical difficulties. And later on in the evening, we will also have Steve Fernandez. So we got a full cast of characters tonight. But before we get into all the great things that we had some really cool events this last weekend. I know the World Series of Arm Wrestling. Big shout out to them. Greg Sharp, you had a great show. Here's Luke. We had a big turnout at that event, which I'm excited to see the results of it. And then we also had East vs. West as well. 15 big time event, a lot of fun, a lot of energy there. I am also having some glitchy side. I don't know if everything's coming out smoothly on my end, but I'm sure it is. So we're going to keep going with it, regardless if it is or isn't. I'm eager to have these gentlemen on screen with me. Luke, we got Dan Swartz and Josh Harding. Everyone is probably familiar with Luke Pulscher, as he's been a big-time ref in our community. You see him in the community posting a lot of, very diplomatic responses to a lot of the controversies that are out there. I happen to learn a lot from how he handles, himself and carries himself with his responses. It's very helpful and pivotal in my interpretation of what goes down in the sport. There's always two sides to the story, but he encompasses both of them fairly effectively and thoroughly. So before we get into Josh and Dan, I just wanted to introduce Luke Pulscher, big time referee in the United States, international scene, North America, all over the place. There is an event that I haven't seen you at. I feel like coast to coast, nation to nation. This man's seen it all, been there, done it all.
Yeah, it's been a good sport.
How long have you been in the sport of arm wrestling, Luke?
Right about 25 years.
It's more than half the years that I've been alive. What got you into the sport in the first place?
Oh, well, like most people, when I was a kid, I arm wrestled in the lunchroom and stuff like that. Never really got beat, and then went to college and arm wrestled in the bars and never really got beat. And then in December of '98, I went to my first tournament after getting on AOL search engine, because it's the only search engine there was, and found a tournament, and I went to it and pulled the super heavyweights, because back then I weighed in at that tournament at 285. And I was still only 5'9". It wasn't like I was 6'3" back then. And I won the tournament. And a couple of months later, I went to another one that was wrist wrestling, not arm wrestling. And won that event and thought, heck yeah, I knew I was good at this. And then a couple of months later, I went to a third tournament, and there was arm wrestlers there, and I got my ass handed to me. Went 2-0. And that's when I realized that I wanted to learn about the sport. And I was pretty lucky at that event. Leonard Harkless was the head ref, and he showed me a few things. And a couple of months later, I was at another tournament where he was at, and I was top rolling like he had showed me. And at one of the breaks, he's like, "Hey, who taught you that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you did, remember?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, but who have you been training with?" I'm like, "I don't train with anybody. This is what you taught me." And he's like, "Oh, good, you learn fast." And he started showing me other things. And about a year after that, he started me reffing, and And yeah, so forever ago I was a super heavyweight that top rolled. Now I'm lighter and I hook.
That is amazing, man. I love it. As somebody who found weight loss through arm wrestling and started in the sport at a similar weight, I am always eager to hear someone else's story in that regard, because I came into the sport about 270, and I found that I couldn't really, I didn't have the same success as you did in the beginning. I didn't have the strength to contend with those guys. And I too am 5'9", and I just didn't have that kind of power. I was just more of a sloppy 270, and definitely had no background, strength background. The only thing I had working for me was I understood body mechanics, because, being a massage therapist, I had that. That's the only benefit I had at the time. I had a strong hand, but no arm to go with it, no shoulder to go with it. And hearing your story does encourage me to keep going, because I know we've exchanged a few comments on streams here and there in the comments about meeting at the table at some point, and I hear you're coming back down. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, because I know we got two event holders on screen with us that I want to dive into. Josh and Dan, you guys founded Virginia Arm Wrestling League, and one of my biggest questions, we'll get into like the founding of that league, but my biggest question is, how hard is it to find quality refs, knowing that people like Luke Pulscher exist? I know he holds the standard fairly high. How hard is it? It's got to be.
It's a task, definitely. We've I don't know. We used to use a couple of experienced guys that have been pulling here for probably longer than my lifespan. But then they just it was difficult for them to I don't know, keep up with the younger guys that are very, very competitive. So we had to start asking actual, qualified dudes around the state. But it's been a tough journey to find refs.
I can only imagine.
Armrefs.com, for the love of God. Go on the website. Look at who's in your area.
All right.
I built an entire website for you people to find referees.
If anyone of my mods or anybody has that link, please share that, in the chat, because I would love to promote the hell out of that. Armrefs.com. Check that out, guys.
And I think there are a couple of refs that we've reached out to on that, as well as developing, guys around here. And we got a couple guys in North Carolina that are real good refs, and up north as well. Steve Walker comes down. We got the Stanaways from Virginia, who have been with us from the beginning as well. They run the national sit downs out in Yorktown every year, and they've been in the sport for a long time.
Yeah, no, the Stanways definitely. I had the pleasure of meeting them in this last year's sit down. So it was definitely amazing experience and humbling experience, by the way, to be around that much years of experience in the sport. So I guess a little bit more background on you guys, Josh and Dan. How long have you been in this sport, and what inspired Virginia Arm Wrestling League?
Dan, you want to go first?
I can. So I'm knocking on 3 years in the sport, and basically, so I've always loved arm wrestling. Same thing like Luke, arm wrestling in school. It's what we did. It's what you do. And I always did very well, like especially in high school, did really good. And then out on the job site, I'm a carpenter by trade. Started out framing houses. That's all I ever did. I was homeschooled for a few years, and I worked full time basically. So, you're always gripping up with dudes on the job sites and all that. And then fast forward, when YouTube came out, I'd find myself kind of hovering towards the arm wrestling videos would pop up here and there, and I always gravitated towards it. and then it was Game of Arms that came out, and then that's when I started recognizing faces and all that, and of course Devin Larrett, Travis Bagent, Cobra Rhodes was on in there, and so I started like seeing these characters. WAL came out and all this. I never really knew that there was, never knew of any clubs or never went to that next step with it till, like I said, like 3 years ago. And me and my buddy Big Mike, we're just fooling around watching videos. His family's over for dinner. We're watching videos, and we start arm wrestling on the countertop in my kitchen. We're lucky we didn't break each other's arms, because we didn't really know the proper technique. But that was kind of our entry into it, and I looked up looking for clubs around here, and I found Team Brutal, and me and Big Mike went to the first practice, and Josh was there, and Stan and Ben Saunders, and I think it was just them three were the only three there. It was like a kind of a winter night, frozen ice kind of night, and yeah, we stuck with it. And then, long story short, with the VAL thing, so Josh had, he's been helping like the Stanaways with like at the events, at the sit downs and all that. And then he did a couple tournaments. And as I'm new to this thing, I'm like, well, who's the number one guy in Virginia? I'm like asking the guys at practice and stuff, and no one really knows. Like you kind of like, oh yeah, CJ Twine, this guy, that guy. Why don't we know what? Figured out there was the station. So that's when I told him, I'm like, dude, this thing needs to be organized. Like, we need to grow this thing in our state, and take it from there. And everyone was and all that, and so we took off a shoot just under a year ago. Was our ranking tournament for the state, and that was kind of our start to the VAL. Was to get our state rankings started, and then from there we popped up tournaments. And next Saturday, or this coming Saturday, was our fourth tournament this year for 24, and it's which is also an honored qualifier. The last tournament was a qualifier as well. So yeah, that's kind of a shell on my end.
That's amazing that you guys have the capacity to actually create a league like you do, and organize it in a fashion. And I've included the QR code link to Virginia Arm Wrestling League Facebook page. It's definitely a up and coming league, growing league. I do like the energy you guys bring to the table. I also like the graphics that I see out of you guys. You guys have some of the nicest and cleanest, flyers that I've seen in a while. I enjoy looking at them. As somebody who's an amateur flyer maker, this last year I've made a fair share of them. I kind of try to look at yours, and I look to see what's already out there, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I'm inspired by what you guys have. And you said which tournament's coming up this weekend, Josh?
We got a VAL Chaos this weekend.
That's right, Chaos. And here's the link for that event coming up. Definitely check it out. It is an oral qualifier. And everybody who's showing up left-handed to make a statement there. In the 176 class, you're gonna be facing me, yours truly, at the 176 left-handed. I'm looking forward to doing that. Don't worry, I got my right saved for you, Luke. We'll get back to that though. But the left, it's it's the party arm, so I'm taking it off the shelf by way of just for top level competitions to see what I do with it. I can't do the local stuff anymore, because it just doesn't recover us the same way. But Josh, give us your background in the sport.
So I'm about 5-ish years in. I guess end of maybe starting college, I started getting big into fitness and stuff, watching all the influencers. I came across Juji Mufu. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
he started into arm wrestling, and I guess the North Carolina scene, so it wasn't too far from here. And he had like a meet and greet one night in Richmond at a WAL. So I went there to meet him, and then got picked up by Team Brutal, and that's a wrap. Ever since then, I've been going to practices, going to tournaments, then hosting my own tournaments, helping out with sit downs. And, I had been to like probably 12 or so, and I'm like, some of these can be run way better, way faster. It's like everybody's still on paper. Let's digitalize this stuff. So I, took my own spin on things, and we run our tournaments, probably 100 competitors in about 4 hours. Not too bad.
Nice. As somebody who's sat around for tournaments, I can tell you, I've been at tournaments that was 3 hours. I've been at tournaments that was like almost 10 hours, and I appreciate the quicker, pace tournaments, because then, in my opinion, I get to the after pool a little bit faster.
Yep.
Are you guys utilizing the Corey Miller bracket system?
Oh yeah.
Good
Oh, yeah.
boys.
Good
There you
stuff,
go.
Corey.
Shout out to Ayers and Corey Miller. And who's the other guy that's with him?
Frank. Shout out Frank Callahan.
Frank Callahan. That's right. Frank Callahan. Big shout out to you guys. What you guys are doing is changing the game. I've watched it as it's been, introduced to the sport. Before it came in, all people were talking about was in the hook rankings. They were talking about, if you want to know who's active, and like you had to look up on Arm Fighter, which it didn't tell you where they were from. It didn't tell you what state they're in. It didn't tell you how many, who they faced previously. And this really does give you like, I know it's not a ranking system, but it shows you a good gauge as to who your opponent or future opponent might have faced if you faced them previously. And I've used it as a study guide, if you may, to do my homework at future opponents. Like, for instance, whenever there's a match set for Luke, I'm gonna be studying the hell out of that.
Well, the nice thing about the Aries system versus, I'll just pick on Arm Fighter, and keep in mind, when I pick on a ranking system, I don't want to do it. I don't think there's necessarily actually a good way to do it. Aries in the next couple of years will become the expectation, because it'll have enough data in it.
Mm-hmm.
But Aries, there's no opinion to it. It's just purely based off of results, where, like Arm Fighter, it's a group of guys, which is great. I'm glad they want to spend their time and try to help the sport that way. But they throw opinions, and beating somebody isn't always just good enough. I've actually been told, well, I know you beat that guy, but I still think he's better than you, which just cracks me up. So, okay. But
that's definitely, it makes it, it leaves room for what's the word I'm looking for? Not just opinion, but like it being subjective, right? It's not being completely objective.
yeah, bias.
Yeah, bias. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. You read my mind. It leaves room for bias and, favoritism. And we all know that doesn't really fly too well when we're trying to, bust our asses and say, wait, no, I worked harder than that person, obviously, because I'm the one who got the win. So, all right. With that being said, that you guys are using Aries, you guys streamline the process, and you guys are killing it, having multiple qualifiers for Arnold's, and then having another event coming up later on. I think in next year, right? Early on next year.
Yep.
Conquest is the next one, right?
Yep.
That one. Here's the link for this one right here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gotten to Virginia, I will say I've been to one Virginia tournament. That was with Travis Bajent. The energy in Virginia is a little different for the East Coast, in my opinion. I happen to like it because it's, you pull from people that are as far north as New Yorkers, sometimes even further. You got some New Englanders coming down. Then you have the people from the Carolinas coming up, and everyone from Pennsylvania shows up too. So like it definitely is a good time spent. Well worth the investment if you're in the Northeast area, or in just the East Coast in general, because it's really central to, Florida and Maine. Everyone in between can make that a little bit easier for, I'm sure, Luke's familiar with the 6-hour drive, 7-hour drive plus for a tournament. But when we're such in a congested area on the East Coast, so people don't want to take that long of a drive because they can go to another tournament. But, it may not be as big of a turnout. You may not have as deepest talent, and you may not be getting challenged. And I happen to like to be challenged, and I'm in the talks with my wife about me coming down February 1st to this event. Because I like what these guys are doing. I want to be a part of it. There's, been some chitter chatter on some of my posts about some super matches with, individuals from South Carolina. But then there's also a gentleman that I definitely want to face because I feel like he's not giving me the time of day, but he's going to need to sooner or later. Alec Guth is somebody who I actually have. I gotta, I gotta set the record straight with him. I took a loss from him at Arnold the last Arnold qualifier we did, and he bumped me into 4th place there. And then after the Arnold during the afterpool, we played around, and I was able to hold my own. I'm not the same guy you once pulled back then, and I think we pulled again at Virginia, at Travis Bajent's tournament. After you had that war with Paul Italia, so it wasn't a fair assessment of what you can do against me. You were tired, of course. So I definitely want to have another go around with you because it's been a long time coming.
Sounds like a call out to me.
Oh yeah,
Alec Guth,
yeah,
Conquest.
We'll make it happen.
I like it.
Yeah, I will say it's not that I'm running from Damian Schlosser in any way or form. That's somebody else who I need to face, But I got respect for both those dudes because they've been killing it. And then later on in the year, I got to work my way up to this gentleman that's on the screen right here, Luke Pulscher. He's been saying that he wants to come down and kick my butt, and I don't think I'm quite ready for his expertise and table IQ just yet, but in due time, I think that this next year will happen, and I will be ready for that.
It's not my table IQ that'll be an issue for you.
It's the power, huh?
So with the Virginia League, what rule set are you guys using?
With the current qualifiers, the high 5 rule set, which is like their own spin on things.
Yeah.
And how do you like that in comparison to other tournaments you've experienced?
I mean, I feel like it's fair.
It's pretty, like they're all pretty much the same, really. Like when you look at all 3 rule sets or whatever, they're so close. I mean, looking at reading the rules and you just see different wording. Everything kind of comes down to that slipping and losing position kind of thing, and they say the different thing. They say the same thing, but differently between the AAA, the WAF, IFA. But back to the whole qualifier thing, I do like what Knuckles Up has done by kind of just using their own rule set, and it kind of keeps the drama factor out of it by doing that, like with the whole, which one you're choosing kind of thing. And I was going to say earlier about when about this Arnold qualifier. We did 2 of them, basically as a gift to our region, to give more people opportunity, arm wrestlers in our neck of the woods in the Carolinas, to get qualified for this upcoming Arnold. So I want everybody to see it that way, and kind of so we could hit this year with a bang, and we plan on doing it again next year, and got some big plans for next year as well, with these tournaments.
Yeah, for anybody who's looking for, the Arnold qualifiers in your region, the High Five Club, I have their link tree here. They have all the links and all the information regarding their qualifiers for Knuckles Up tournament. For the Arnolds, which if you win the Arnolds, you automatically qualify. If you win your weight class, you automatically qualify to be on a Knuckles Up card. So best of luck to each and every one of you. I hope to see you guys across the table from me, at the Arnold, and fighting for that spot right there. So with that being said, with strict rule sets and different rule sets that are out there, what are your thoughts on running fouls versus foul stopping the match? Like, what do you guys think on that? Luke, let's start with you, being the veteran of the sport here.
Yeah, so I'm going to be the guy that shits on everybody's parade here with this. So there should be 2 basic rule sets. There should be tournament rules that are WAF, IFA. They're within like 7 words, the exact same rule set. And then there should be super match rules that are more put together for viewability, and whether, running fouls, or like East versus West does it, where you just kind of ignore the little bobbles, so it's more of a judgment call. I don't really care which way you go with it, but those 2 rule sets should never cross-pollinate. You should never use super match rule sets in a tournament setting, and tournament setting rules don't make for good viewability. Plain and simple. Coming up with your own variation of a rule set hurts the sport, period. You can't change my mind on that. It hurts the sport. It hurts the arm wrestlers, because as soon as the arm wrestlers that have been arm wrestling in that little microclimate go somewhere else, they're going to go 2 and out. They're going to get fouled out. They're going to be pissy that, oh my God, the refs actually called the fouls and blah, 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 blah. And they're never going to expand themselves because they don't like having to now follow rules or the right rules or whatever. So, the whole IFA WAF thing, the one thing that they both agree on is the rule set. They're virtually identical. The only difference, I believe, is the technical calling of the King's move, where with WAF it is still a caution, and IFA it's a foul, and the language in WAF is getting updated to make it a foul, which means there really be no rule differences between IFA and WAF. For super match format, again, whatever running fouls or whatever you want to go with, the thing to remember is if you're going to do something like that, the quality of referee that you need goes up dramatically. It is 10 times harder to ref running fouls or loose rules than it is normal rules, because now not only do you have to make a split decision on what you saw, you have to make a split decision on, do you call it, how do I call it, and when do I call it? And there's really maybe as many as 5 referees in the US, and that's being generous, that are truly qualified to call rules like that. And there's maybe only 7 or 8 in the world that can truly do that job well.
Wow.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, the sport is growing a lot, and I think at an alarming rate. So I'm hopeful that number, that pool, will grow with the eagerness with gentlemen like these two, and the man who just joined us, Steve Fernandez, that they're investing a lot more into growing the sport in a fashion that makes more sense. And I agree that, you know, it may not be at that point or at that level as of yet, but I think we're on the right pathway to getting there to that level where we can have room for multiple, you know, formats to follow. Are we there yet? I don't think we're there yet, but that's the crucial word, right? I think it does take a village. Like, you know, Greg Sharp announced on his Facebook page, it takes a village to create something like this. And, you know, when you have a village, you're going to have different people doing similar things that are going to try to improve upon each other or one up on each other. But also they can still learn from each other too, right? And that's where what this.
No mainstream sport has multiple rule sets.
Hey, so check it out. So I don't want what I said earlier get taken out of context. So the tournament rules that we're using with the high five rule set, that is basically the IFA rules. The WF,
Yep,
they're
I know.
the same. They're the same. And then the they do use a separate rule set for knuckles up, like you were talking about with their running fouls and whatnot.
When is that tournament? When is the high five tournament?
Their next one is January, ain't it?
Oh, okay.
The next knuckles up, right?
Oh, the next knuckles up is I think in January.
Yeah, the next Knuckles Up event, it will be in January, January 25th, I want to say. But okay, that is fair, Luke. There is no mainstream sport that has multiple rule sets. You're correct. You know, it's definitely but we're in that fact-finding mission of what rule set is going to make it mainstream, right? There's been several decades of the rule sets that have been in existence that it hasn't made it mainstream as of yet. Is it the chicken or the egg at this point? Is it because there's too many rule sets that it hasn't made mainstream, or is it because we haven't found the right recipe to make it mainstream as of yet? And I'm as somebody, I'm only in it for 4 years, so I'm fairly newer to the sport. I don't have that answer, but I think that it's worthwhile dipping the toe in the water to see, okay, maybe we need to go back to the drawing board with this. Maybe we can revamp that. Maybe we can incorporate and integrate all these different things into one for the betterment of the sport.
It's not the rule sets that keep us from growing. It's the lack of a willingness of promoters to work together for a common goal because of the FOMO. Well, if that guy does it and I don't, then he's going to get something that I want, and so I'm just going to fight against him. The willingness of the people in our sport to eat our young is ridiculous at all levels.
Okay. That's, you know, as somebody who has been around for a while, like, you know, you've seen it much more than we have. We've only seen a microcosm of what you've experienced, right? You've experienced the whole galaxy when we've only experienced the solar system of the sport. So our experiences, our bubbles, if you may, are limited in that nature. You know, where you have a more eclectic experience. So that's why I brought you on screen, though, so we can share those things and say, hey, listen, guys, like, you know, like a bunch of squabbling kids, you know, in a family, and they're fighting over the same toy. Hey, listen, you got the same fucking toy, excuse my language, but you got the same fucking toy right next to you, kid. You know, why are you fighting over the same one? You can enjoy it the same way. We need that adult to sternly, you know, kind of reprimand us, if you may, and redirect and recourse us. You know, that's exactly why I brought you on, because I wanted your opinions and your stances on these things, because I am new to it, and some of the guys that are, you know, on screen with us are still new to it. You know, I know that they're trying to do what's right for the community, and they're trying to learn as well. You know, they have their own personal experiences. They come from all different walks of life, which is the greatest thing about arm wrestling, in my opinion. How it does attract all walks of life. There is not, in my opinion, anymore a stereotypical arm wrestler, right? There isn't. You know, you yourself have a different profession than I do by way of, you know, what our lifestyle and our day-to-day living is. But we do come together for one love, which is arm wrestling. And, you know, that experience alone does bring a lot to the table, figuratively and literally.
So if you look back at the history of things, Neil Pickup essentially invented the super match format with Arm Wars. To any level, it never existed before that. The running fouls was created there, and that helped. Probably the singular biggest thing that has helped catapult the sport forward, in my opinion, was Game of Arms. Regardless of the, you know, meet in a meat locker and arm wrestle Hollywood aspect of it, it brought a lot of eyes on the sport that had never seen it before. That was awesome. WAL had benefit in the exposure. It had, in my opinion, detriment in actual arm wrestling. You would be amazed how often I still ref an event where two guys come up and they just sit their hands there and they're like, okay. And I'm like, well, no, get a grip. And well, in our area, we still do WAL rules. Why? It's essentially at this point a dead organization. If Kaplan wants to come back and resurrect it, have at it. But I don't see it happening. And then we had the perfect storm with COVID. We had COVID that affected the world and a sport that is not COVID friendly because we hold hands and our faces are 4 inches apart. So if you think of that, so like in August of COVID, I ran my South Dakota State tournament and I went from having 80 to 90 entries to having 180 entries because South Dakota was the land that COVID forgot. We never had a mask mandate. I worked at home for all of 10 days in COVID, and then I went back seeing clients in my office. Restaurants were all still open. Bars were all still full. We went on with life as normal over here. And I think I had 9 states show up for South Dakota State just because they could finally go somewhere and arm wrestle. Engen, being in a country that you could go to without having to be vaccinated, the sports ministry of Turkey behind him, and probably the only human on the planet with enough relationships and enough knowledge to start East versus West at a time when there was nothing else. And then you've got the characters like Devin and Michael Todd that emerged through social media, again, because they had nothing else to do. And we've seen that catapult forward to give the opportunity for things like Arm Wars to more or less be resurrected and come back in a new way. Knuckles Up to start, which is awesome. I love the Knuckles Up guys. Tim Talmadge with what he does with Arizona State and Washington State, running super matches and regular tournaments and bringing international athletes into both of them, where you can go to Arizona State and have a great opportunity of arm wrestling top guys from different places in the world without having to be invited to be in a super match with them. That wasn't happening prior to COVID. The only place that happened prior to COVID was the Arnold, because the Arnold was international. And so, but now again, and we've seen this before, there's a surge in popularity. So there's this idea by some that here's my opportunity to make money on arm wrestling, except instead of going and trying to build, they try to do it by tearing down what is already working. And it's very, very frustrating because, again, we're very willing to eat our young in this sport. If for anybody that wouldn't know, I still arm wrestle WAF. I ref at WAF Worlds. That's only because my goal in this sport from pretty much day one when I realized it existed was to get a WAF World Championship. I don't particularly love the politics of WAF. I'm certainly not in favor of banning athletes from anything ever. That's absurd.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let that prevent me from going after my goal in the sport. Trust me, it would be way easier on me if I moved to IFA. Leonard and Denise, who raised me in the sport, are IFA.
I got in the box.
Corey Miller, who's one of my best friends in the sport, is IFA. I get a lot of grief for wanting to chase my goal. And if you want to go and pull IFA Nationals and IFA Worlds, go do it. Enjoy it. It's a wonderful experience to compete overseas. But IFA and WAF fight, and that only hurts the sport.
Yeah.
Knuckles up in East versus West, have some fights. It only hurts the sport. If both sides of all those equations would realize that supporting one another and saying, hey, just go do your best and we're here to support everybody, sport would grow even faster.
Without a doubt, I think that concept of the room that we have in the sport to grow would be very, very beneficial if it was adopted by everybody. I think that that's something that, you know, it is a dream of mine. I will say, everybody has the room to grow in their own capacities, and instead of trying to knock someone else's feet from underneath them, say, hey, listen, I wish you the best of luck at this event. Someone like Greg Sharp does a great job with that kind of role, because he always talks up and promotes other events, including his own. Steve Fernandez does the same thing. He promotes other people's events and other people's and other entities in the sport, and as well as these other good gentlemen on the screen. I've seen them do the same thing. So I wish that's the exact reason why everybody who's on screen today is on screen, because I've seen that collaborative approach that, hey, listen, just because you may be doing it better than me or differently than me doesn't mean you're a bad individual for me. And if anything, you help me because you bring more eyes to the sport on a larger level. Someone that's in my own backyard may not be able to get to your production or get to your event, but they're looking for an event to come to.
Learn something from somebody. I mean, maybe they do something differently. You know, that's what I don't get sometimes. You know, that people just want to separate the sport so much. Like, you know, it's, you know, I agree with you on that. That, you know, it would be so much. It would grow a lot faster if people would just get together. You know what I mean? And I hate to say it. I mean, in such a, you know, corny way, but it's so true. If everybody would get together, East versus West, knuckles up, everybody in general. Like if they would put their guys up against their guy, it's just everything would be so much faster, go so much better. We'd have so much and have one rule set. You know, I agree with that. That's the only way that you can really, you know, grow the sport. And, you know, just like you said, and any mainstream sport out there it's that professional rules way set. That's just the way it is. I mean, and that's the way to grow the sport. That's the way everybody has to be, because that's the only way to grow the sport. That's the way, you know, that's what I'm thinking, really.
So it was interesting when WAL was going full bore. The number one question I got asked by international athletes when I was at Worlds was, how come Americans can't arm wrestle with rules? Serious. They viewed it as a joke. You can't follow rules and still win at arm wrestling? They couldn't understand it. Why do you need to not call elbow fouls? Just don't elbow foul. But in most of those countries, there's one organization. They all follow the same set of rules. So they learn to pull within the set of rules. Like if you go way, way back, and I'm not going to be able to tell you the year, but Worlds was in Canada. Alan Fisher goes to Canada to compete in Worlds with full expectation of being able to win a right and a left-hand world title. Alan Fisher went 4 and out on fouls because at the time in the U.S., all the common rule set was elbow hop, no position gained was not called. They just let it go. AAA, USAA, they were all calling it that way. Go to Worlds, Alan Fisher goes 4 and out. Several other athletes had the same problems. Those organizers came back, got together, believe it or not, and said, we can't do this anymore. We need to follow the international rule set. We're hurting our athletes. And that's when elbow hop, no position gained, no call went away. Because we watched at the world level, it just absolutely hosed the athletes.
Makes sense.
Now we get a lot of, well, there's no call, no foul for intentional slip. We'll just go straight to the strap. Well, it's certainly easier, especially from a referee's standpoint, that I don't have to watch for those little intricacies. But if that's how you get used to pulling and you're a person that really likes to go to the strap, you're going to go 2 and out because you're going to get called for intentional slips if you go anywhere that calls the rules. So it makes it really hard. And the last 2 relatively controversial things that I'll say, probably the last 2, for as much benefit as social media has been to the sport, it's absolutely had that much negative as well. When I was at your guys' point in the sport, I would get a hold of the promoter to find out who was going to be at that event, looking for the people that I probably could not beat. And then I went to see if I was getting closer, if I was closing the gap. Now, with our losses hitting social media instantly or soon after, and people not wanting to hurt their ranking or, well, geez, those 3 guys are going to be there, so I can't place. I'm not going to go. Like that mentality baffles me. I can't win, so I'm not going to go. Well, you are just in the wrong sport. And so that's been a unique thing to watch develop as well is the whole social media prima donna culture. I said, I kid you not, last year for South Dakota State, I had a puller reach out to me. I had never heard this person's name before. Now, there's getting to be enough people in the sport that I don't know everyone. But this person wanted to know what I would do for them if they wanted to come to my event. I'm like, well, I'll let you enter for the entry fee. You get the free t-shirt like everybody else and an opportunity to win. He's like, well, no, you don't understand. I'm going to be so good for your social media. You need to fly me in. I'm like, dude, I've never heard your name. And you want me to buy you a plane ticket? He says, well, think what it's going to do for your streaming. I don't stream my event. I don't care. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it.
And the other thing, entitlement.
Yeah, and the other thing, right now in the United States, we have 3 times too many tournaments. Way too many events going on. It dilutes the pool. Nobody travels to big events anymore. You never get the top guys in one place because you can go anywhere. And unfortunately, because of the social media, it's my opinion that most guys look around at the tournaments to go to the easiest one so they can get their trophy.
Well, I mean, to my point earlier, though, Luke, in that regard, the sport is growing, and I think the participation of the sport is growing. Do we eat our young? Yeah, I think there is a stage of that, but there's going to be a time where the young will outnumber the old. And the guys that are running the tournaments need to have that much more venues or that much more options to accommodate for the demand. I think the demand is growing.
Do we need to have 250 tournaments a year with 75 entries, or do we need to have 40 tournaments a year with 300 entries?
Well,
Let me throw a perspective out there. So, for when I got into it, there's like literally nothing happening in Virginia. And this is speaking from the East Coast. So there's not a whole lot going on below like the 98 and up in New Jersey and all that, south of there till basically Florida. I know there's some stuff in Alabama and all that, but that's a long way. That's a long hike down to Alabama. And then so for us, like I saw it as an opportunity. Number one, for us to get there's too many good guys in Virginia and the Carolinas that nobody knows about. And I was like, well, this is a way to get these guys on the national stage. Like, I'm nothing, dude. That guy right there, that dude's number one in our state, 242. He's a good arm wrestler. I got a long ways to go. But so for me, I want to get behind my guys in the state. There's dudes that people don't even know about who are freaking monsters, you know. So and we don't got no one to compete with. You know, like what are you
So
talking
that's
about
a really good argument. That's a very valid point. But I have a question. You said
Okay.
Alabama's a really long haul. If you go to a tournament in Alabama, how long a drive is that for you?
I don't know. I've never
So
been. Yeah, I would imagine. Let's see, probably at least 8, 9 hours, something like that. But see where I'm at right now. I'm not going to drive to a tournament in Alabama myself because if I can't beat the guys in my state, why am I driving to Alabama? I haven't got to that level yet. I'm just speaking for my level at this point.
So and that's but I'll tell you why. The more you compete against higher level, the better you get faster.
Understand?
I've never seen anybody go to an international tournament, WAF or IFA, go 2 and out, never win a match going all the way over there, come back that didn't 100% level up
No, I can
because of
vibe
the
with that.
experience.
I'm pulling with guys that are already levels above me, so I'm feeling I'm climbing. You know what I'm saying? But not everyone's going to want to drive 10 hours to go to an event. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the other side of that, with not wanting to drive and travel that far, the expense. Not everyone has the budget to be able to afford that. You know, because not for nothing for me, like I want to also be able to include my family, right? And not every time I can do that. I can only do that probably about 3 times a year if that's how often I want to compete. Now I'm somebody who likes to compete about 10 to 15 times a year in different scenarios. Is that too much for me to do? I have, knock on wood, haven't sustained any injuries. I know that's my own thing. I don't necessarily recommend that for everybody. But, you know, everyone's got to stick their toe in the water in a certain regard. But I can't afford going to a further away tournament that might be a bigger tournament when there's one that's going to be only an hour and a half drive away from my house, 2 hours away from my house. Whereas the other one would require me to get a hotel stay, pay for food for multiple days, and, you know, take my family away from you know, multiple, you know, days at a time. I can't afford that. That's the other side of it. Is that somebody who came into the sport only 4 years ago, I only had, you know, maybe 1 or 2 tournaments to start off with, 3 tournaments to start off with. Then all of a sudden, I started seeing more and more tournaments. Yeah, there's a lot of them, and yes, I wish there was more people showing up. But guess what? In my experience, there are more people showing up at each of these tournaments. You know, when they were full 50, 70 to 100 people, now they're 120, 130. They're not growing at alarming rates, but they're growing exponentially each time that I go to them.
And this is where you make me sound like the old guy, because I understand and appreciate what you're saying. When I was new in the sport and broke in a young family, we either carpooled. The number of times that I drove 10 plus hours to a tournament, packed a cooler because I couldn't afford to eat out, and slept in my car because I didn't want to pay for a hotel room. But I couldn't even figure out how many events that was. So, and I get things are different and everything, but for me, having gone through it that way, was just more convenient. It makes me sound old, and I am old, so I'm okay sounding old. It's like, toughen up. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I understand it, and I'm at that point in life now where I've got an established career, an established business. My kids are older, and so I have more financial freedom to be able to do more things, and I absolutely take advantage of it. I put in the time, I earned that, and I'm happy I have that ability. But yeah, the days of sleeping in the car or taking a tent or packing a cooler, yeah, I did all that. And mind you, for a trophy, no cash prize opportunities. There's 2 or 3 tournaments a year back then that had a cash prize.
Yeah.
For me, it was also reffing. Reffing gave me an avenue to at least get travel paid for. So I could get further away then, because they'd cover part of my flight and give me a hotel room, or they'd cover my flight, but I had to get my own hotel room, or some function of that would help make it more affordable as well. That was the primary driver of my start into the refereeing world. Was it gave me an avenue to get to more tournaments affordably.
Yeah, I would say when tournaments and everything like that, I would say that the more the merrier, the better. The more tournaments, the more people are going to be interested, the more pullers are going to be out there. I would love to see if there was state tournaments. You know what I mean? That we can do, New York versus, like, there would be so many pullers that you would have to go state against state. Like that's what literally I'm trying to do in general with our super matches. So we can go from one state to another and challenge, the best of Virginia, the best of Alabama, the best of, you know what I mean? So, and we just went against Montana, you know what I mean? Having Canada, Montana, Utah, Washington, and, we beat them, having 11 super matches, we beat them 6-5. And that's kind of like, I think, where the sport needs to go. The more tournaments there are, the more super matches there are, the more people get to go up against each other. The higher levels you get to go up against these guys that you never knew before, and all of a sudden you're like, Jesus, and you're good. You're good in New York, you're good in New Jersey, you're good in Pennsylvania, you're good in Connecticut, but are you good in Montana up against these guys? And that will paint you the picture. Some of my guys lost. Some of my guys lost left and right. And I got my man Dan that killed it, that people thought that he was going to get murdered. And Dan murdered, Roy, so going up against these guys that you don't ever see, or you think differently, or they're just on different levels, and they're in different states. I think the more people we have into the sport, the more eyes we get into it, the bigger it's going to be, just like anything else.
I think areas of the country are somewhat different too, because when I came over to Pennsylvania for nationals this year, there were several very high quality pullers that I went against, and I had never seen them, and I've arm wrestled in a lot of places, but they never leave that area. And I hear that more on the East Coast because you guys are so congested. There's so many people there. There is just more that you can hit your 4, 5, 6 tournaments a year without really having to get off the East Coast. Where out here, if I only go to an event in my state, I'm going to go to one, and it's mine. So I am constantly, I have to go to other states, or there is zero opportunity to arm wrestle.
It's all relative at that point.
I drive 3.5 hours just to get to practice because it's my closest decent people to practice with. But I also drive 55 miles to my office. because it's just the geography of where we are. I drive 55 miles to get to work, takes me 55 minutes. You know, I don't worry about traffic. I worry if there's a herd of elk on the road that I have to wait for. You know, so it's just a very different. I mean, you got to remember that I live in a state that it takes 6.5 hours to traverse north to south or east to west, and there's only 700,000 people in the entire state.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
have 3 cows in the state for every person. You know, I'm in
Steak
ranch
must be
country.
good, huh?
Oh yeah, my freezer's a wonderful place. You know, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, we're all like that. Idaho, you know, so for me to, well, not this weekend, but next weekend is the Brezink Cup. It's right at an 8-hour drive for me to get to Salt Lake from my house. So that's in my circle of I drive it instead of flying it because it's so close.
That's
I
insane,
view that as close.
So for me, anything that's more than like a 6-hour drive is worthy of a flight for me, because 6 hours, it will take me 6 hours to get to Virginia, and that's multiple states away, you know, and it's due to traffic, and it's probably about the same, you know, distance. I'm sorry, the same time in the car, but a fraction of the distance traveled. Right. And so it becomes like more stressful, and I get, you know, I lose years off my life the longer I'm in that car, you know, for that short ride that I have to be in. And I don't want to, you know, participate in that level of stress on my way to a tournament, because I want to go to a tournament in the mindset I'm ready to go and relax. I want to have that, you know, nothingness to drive by. If I had that, I probably would have a different lifestyle with, you know, different trading methods and ideologies on it. So experiences really are relative to, you know, where you are in the country, the setting, you know. I do think that, you know, the Northeast is probably the most congested, starting, you know, as far south as Virginia, going all the way up to New England area in the nation by way of arm wrestlers and also opportunities to pull. I think that, you know, to the point I was making earlier about it growing though exponentially. Like, I started with a group of guys that we fractioned off, right? And I haven't pulled with those guys. And I started with another group of guys, and I've since fractioned off with them as well. And now I have a new group of guys. And each of these groups, though, that I fractioned off with initially, they're still growing. They still have 15 to 20 people in each group. And that, you know, what that means to me is we have now a group all encompassing 60 people that regularly practice across the island of Long Island. But you guys probably have that in your entire, you know, city. Whereas I have it in, you know, in an area you can fit Long Island into one of your cities.
Yeah. There's not 60 arm wrestlers in my state. There's not.
That makes it all relative, right?
What state are you in?
South Dakota.
South Dakota? I've never been to South Dakota.
Never been to South Dakota. Definitely would love to check that out.
Does it look like Montana, kind of?
It depends on what part. The eastern side of the state's farm ground. The western side of the state where I'm at is the Black Hills, Mount Rushmore, I live on the good side.
Nice. We were just in Montana. It was really, it was beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
The mountains out there and everything. The scenery is gorgeous. I've never seen anything like that. So I have some mountains up here, but nothing like that.
No, you don't. You have hills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Luke, what do you do? You said your office.
What do I do?
Yeah.
I'm a wealth management advisor, so I do comprehensive financial planning.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And I say it's very cool because I'm a licensed massage therapist, you know, yet, and we probably would never cross each other's paths unless, you know, we have something like arm wrestling in common. I find that to be intriguing. It does get the gears going in my way of my networking brain, because as I was a massage therapist, I connect with people, I talk with people, and I get to know them and what's important, what makes them tick, what makes them a unique individual, in an effort to find out how can I better help them and better make recommendations for them. And I'm sure you do a very similar thing in your line of work, but in a different fashion.
Yep. Oh yeah, and I've got clients in 29 states, so and some of those are certainly arm wrestlers from that I've met and worked with and stuff over the years that eventually call you up and say, "Hey, don't you do this? Can you help me?" But I also focused on building a national practice so that if there was a tournament in Salt Lake, I have quite a few clients in Salt Lake. So on top of going to a tournament, I'll do client meetings while I'm there. And now my trip is a business expense. And maybe I'm even making money while I'm there doing something for my clients or whatever. So, it was purposeful to branch out into other states as well to, hopefully allow my sport to benefit from it and vice versa.
I can appreciate that, because it's definitely, makes it a multifaceted venture for you.
Hey, Josh, let me ask you a question. What do you weigh?
242.
242
right now. Yep.
And were you left or right-handed?
Right. Mainly.
I'll get Paul Cruz on you.
Also, big boy. I'll give it a shot,
Paul looked good this weekend.
I'll give it a shot, though. I'll never turn it down.
No, but
big shout out to Big Paul Cruz, because first and foremost, everybody who's on Instagram follows him on Instagram. He got hacked today, so don't accept anything from that man.
I'm not trying to be an ambassador of anything of nothing. So,
but big shout out to him. He's the king of New York for a reason.
Yeah, he pulled very well at the World Series in San Diego this weekend.
I heard.
Yeah, definitely heard that he did an amazing job. So kudos to him. Yeah. He's definitely he carries a lot of New York on his shoulders too. That man's a strong dude in the sport. He's big shout out to him.
Yeah, Nationals was the first time I met him. I really like that guy.
Yeah,
good dude, genuine. Man, call it as it is, always.
Can't wait. It's gonna be. I think we're going to Florida with him together. He's gonna be part of the team, and Steve Walker and everything else. But we should do something in Virginia with your Virginia guys, man.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, we should do something. That'd be great.
What weight are you, Steve?
Say again?
What weight are you?
176.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at 54, 65. I was in Montana about 173, right?
Yeah, 173. You hit the scale on it.
So I'm trying to get up there. You know what I mean? I'm trying to eat, but not too shitty, and still work out. You know what I mean? But it's hard to not be able to gain. I need to gain weight. You know what I mean? And I need to gain mass. I need to gain muscle. I just don't want to gain fat. You know what I mean? So, but I was eating pancakes and shit. You know what I mean? So I can't really say, I was eating good when we were in Montana. Just a lot of bacon and eggs and but yeah, trying to put on that weight to 176. I was doing good, so I think I'm just gonna keep on 176.
Nice.
Yeah, Steve Walker, he'll be down here at Chaos. He's been at our last few events reffing.
Yeah, Steve Walker's great, man. He'll be probably reffing. Hopefully, I'm just waiting for him to hear back. He'll probably be reffing at my tournament now on the 16th, and he'll be probably coming with us to Florida as 243 plus right hand. So nice. Yeah, and 242, nice. I think it's gonna be Paul Cruz, and then we'll have a couple different guys, a couple of new guys too, and then I'm gonna probably be moving Ben Ciapoli to 230. So, but it's like every 11 that we do from 154 to 243 plus, and Madison Walker's going to be there too, going up against Florida. I'm not sure exactly who we're going up against yet. I'm going to talk to Artem, see if Artem wants to put a team together, something like that. We talked to Mikey, so we're still waiting to hear back something. But yeah, I'm doing Florida, I think, and then what are we doing next after Florida? I forgot if we were going to do Texas or something like that, but
I think Texas was next on the radar.
yeah, and then California, I think it was after that. But I definitely want to do something in Virginia, though. You guys have some really good pullers up there. Really good pullers.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I was just telling them that, I don't know if you were listening, but Alec Guth is somebody that didn't want to give me the time of day earlier this year.
Did you see that match with Alec Guth and
Kevin Palco? Yeah.
Palco?
Yep, I did. I saw that. That was a good match. And also Kevin is another person I need to, go back and, set the record straight with as well, because I think I got something now for him. I definitely had something for him when I got that first pin, but my head was up in the clouds. Didn't have
I'd
much.
like to see you up against what's his name? Seth. Really?
Who?
Seth? Oh no, Alec. Sorry, Alec Guth.
Alec Guth. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yeah. I would love to take on Alec Guth. That's I don't want to count my eggs before they hatch, but next actually in like 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks I got a super match against this up and coming kid Conrad.
You got your fucking hands full of Conrad, man.
I got my hands full with this Luke. I'm sure you've seen it dozens of times. These young kids with less than a year under their belt, but they're freaking built like little phenoms. And this kid it clicked for him. He's young. He's in his early 20s. I took a loss to him at the Jason Vale Strap Only tournament after a war, but it was definitely I was surprised by him. He caught me off guard. I didn't think he had he has a lot of power, but I have a lot more technique, and I think that I can apply my technical skill to put his power stop it in its tracks. In the next couple of weeks, I've been working that. So stay tuned for that, because that dude's strong. And to your point, we eat our young. This kid is young. He's new. He's hungry. And I took a loss to him. I was humbled by him, and I'm trying to beat him now before he gets too good, so I can't beat him later on in the future, because I ain't getting any younger.
It was all with all those Brooklyn guys, man. Fucking Shiu and stuff and everybody. Shiu's an absolute beast, man. Shiu actually beat Paul Cruz in the strap tournament.
Yes, he did.
So that just tells you that much. He trains with fucking monsters,
So if you let me combine Western South Dakota and Wyoming together, then we can get a team put together for state to state. We'll just have to call it WyoDAC to go against you guys, because we've got Corey Miller, AJ Henson, Devin Bear, myself, couple other sleepers out here that are a little bit bigger in the heavier weights as well. We can. So I think it was 3 years ago at the South Dakota State Tournament, in the 187 class was Corey Miller, Roman Gromov, Devin Bear, Bob Brown, and myself.
Corey Miller's at 187?
Yeah, he floats between 176 and 190.
Shit. I thought he was a solid, always 198 guy. I never knew he was fucking.
Oh, God, no.
No, he was actually really and he still is 176 dude. That's got
crazy.
He pulled 170 at IFA Worlds
recently.
Oh, yeah?
Wow.
Yeah. In just last month in Greece.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he sits most of the time at like 185.
He's a monster. Definitely an absolute monster.
He is. He's so fast.
Luke, what are some of your all the years you've been in the game? What are some of your highlights, like your best wins and experiences?
Oh, God, I don't know. There's been so many just awesome experiences. I don't know. I got 9 national titles now that I started winning in 2017 after I got healthy and went from 250 to 185.
Wow.
So I've got national titles ranging from 176, 187, 198, Open and Masters. I've been as high as 6 in the world at WAF. I think I've got got 5 top 10 finishes in the world in both the Masters and the Open Pro. I'm a realist enough that my opportunity to win a world title is in the Masters class, not in the Open division. But I've been able to consistently crack top 10 in the Open, and as long as I can do that, I'm feeling pretty good at that level.
That's awesome.
You know, I can say over the years I have legitimate wins on Corey Miller, AJ Henson, Chris Chandler. All those guys I've got tournament wins on because we all grew up in the sport together. You know, Chris Chandler wasn't always the 250 freak. You know,
He's a beast.
2 years ago, I got a win on Corey in a tournament because I goaded him enough that he went inside with me. And
I remember that. I remember seeing that actually.
And then after that, he didn't. And then went to work on his inside game and really impressively this last couple of years has increased his power. I don't know. There's not really one individual that I'm like, yeah, I got that win. I like tournaments better than super matches personally. I think they're a lot harder to win. You know, if you got 10 or 15 guys in your weight class, all different caliber, all different styles and technique, that's a lot harder to me to prepare for than, you know, beating just you. You know, all I got to do then is understand how to beat you. And I'm either good enough that day or I'm not. But tournaments throw a lot more things into it. You know, you get in a little bit longer match because you missed your go, and then you still got to figure out how to recover for the next matches and stuff. Or heaven forbid, you take a loss early and then you got to come all the way through the losers bracket. Stuff like that is fun. A couple of years ago, so funnest wins maybe. I can say I've never lost to Mike West.
No
and
way.
that's a big deal to me. The first time I pulled him was in 2017 at Nationals. And as I was getting ready to go up to pull him, Bob Brown grabbed me and said, "You have to top roll him. You cannot beat him in a hook. Do not hook him or you'll lose." And so I walked up to the table with the idea to top roll him and turned around and put my chalk on and turned back around and said, "Nope, I want to know." And I beat him. Year later at Bob's tournament in Salt Lake, I had a absolute killer hook war, like almost a full minute in a hook with Mike West, center of the table, and came out on top. No fouls, no straps, just pulling. So those were pretty fun matches. Because Mike's just, I mean, several-time world champion and national champion, and you just it's known that if you go inside with Mike, you're probably not going to come out the other side, and I've been able to, so that's been fun.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had a lot of fun opportunities. You know, I spent a day with Michael Todd at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally with an arm wrestling table on the corner, arm wrestling any bikers that wanted to for his YouTube channel.
I saw that one. Yeah,
that was kind of
saw that
fun
too.
because they'd come up and they'd arm wrestle Mike and they go, "Well, let me try the littler guy," and then they couldn't move me either, and they're like, "Well, what the hell?" Probably one of the neat things, especially for me, because I've been a fan of his since he was flipping tires in parking garages trying to make it to World's Strongest Man, is a couple of weeks ago I got invited down to work with Brian Shaw.
Nice.
And help him with some fundamentals and learning some stuff. In 2 days, I'm going back down to his gym to train with him.
Dude,
That's awesome. So what's your thoughts on him? What's your thoughts?
What's that?
What's your thoughts on his success at the sport, progression in the sport, future in the sport? What are your thoughts?
I think his progression will only be limited by his desire. He's got such an unbelievable foundation of power. You know, so you know, physically he's a 10 out of 10 potential. Right? I mean, he's got to learn how to arm wrestle. He's got to develop some of the strengths that you need for arm wrestling that he doesn't necessarily have. But even those strengths, I don't think you could honestly call them weaknesses for him. He's just got to understand how to use his power better. The thing that impressed me most from working with him was truly how interested he is in understanding not only what to do on the table, but then how to train for it in the gym, and how zero, and I mean zero ego when showing him an exercise and just super, there's, you meet the guy, you spend some time with him. It's really easy to understand how he was four-time world's strongest man. He is a student of what he wants to do. And if he maintains that, 2 to 3 years, he's going to be banging with the best. Whether or not he's going to be able to beat him yet, I don't know, but he'll be at that level.
Wow.
That's amazing. You know, I figured fundamentally he had all the tools necessary. It's just a matter of putting it all together in a fashion that's makes it a little more cohesive. Because seeing him, you know, at the table with the pulleys looked a little on the robotic side, but I figured, you know, with the right coaching, with the right education, and the right attitude, the guy could be a force to reckon with at the table.
Yep. I mean, the guy's 6'8", 400 pounds.
Monster of a human.
And proportioned, right?
Uh-huh.
When you're hanging out with him
that way naturally.
Yeah, he doesn't seem that big because everything's the right size.
Right.
Like Levon, when I met Levon's a huge human. He looks like a huge human. He's not as big as Brian.
Wow.
You know, Levon's only 6'4". So he's a little more condensed, which makes him look a little bit bigger. Then you look at guys like when I ref Vitali and Reves. I mean, I'm not tall. I'm 4'9", but I also wouldn't consider myself little. And in that match, when you look at the picture of me downside reffing those guys, I look like a freaking child standing there. It's absurd. I don't know what I was thinking, smacking that man in the shoulder and then scolding him.
I remember that.
Thank God he took it well. So, I mean, it's all those experiences that have made the sport what it is, not one singular win or one title. I'm very proud of my national titles. I'm proud of my world finishes. I'm proud of every state title I've ever won. And then there's a lot of losses I'm proud of. I mean, go find my second round worlds match this year. I'm in a terrible position and I work my way back to center of the table. It takes me 57 seconds, tore something in my shoulder in the middle of the match, ended up losing the match, but it was one of the best battles I've ever had on the table. With the ref, and I mean, I've gotten to ref some of, if not the very best on the planet, multiple times to Istanbul. I got to go to Brazil and do a referee clinic for CUBB and 27 referees in Brazil that none of them spoke English. It was a riot. I mean, it was an absolute fun time. So yeah.
I bet the language barrier was definitely a challenge. So what would you say arm wrestling, how has arm wrestling actually influenced your overall life journey?
Oh, well, it's made me way healthier. Initially it gave me a reason to not weigh 280 and to get down under 242. And then it was one of the catalysts to help me lose the rest of the weight to get to where I'm at now. It wasn't all of it. We had some family tragedy and some stuff that we were dealing with that made for a pretty tough year, and I couldn't fix anything or control anything. So I took control of nutrition. I took control of the only thing that I could. It was my workouts and my nutrition and stuff. I can tell you that when I'm training hard, when my nutrition is dialed in, my production at work skyrockets as well. It's all coordinated. I think it's helped me be a good role model for my kids in the idea of if you want something, you got to work for it. And you don't always get it. I mean, the guy that I beat the first round of Worlds this year took third, and I crushed him. And because of how the bracket worked, I took eighth. And I really believe I should have been on the podium this year, and I wasn't. So I can either go back to work harder or say, I'm out. I couldn't win. I'm done. Which I'm not gonna lie, it was about a day and a half of that attitude. I think the first text I sent to my wife after that day, because my shoulder was hurt and I didn't do what I wanted, was, I'm done spending money on arm wrestling. I'll be home more. And her only response to that text message was, "Love you." That was it. She knew I was in no mood, and 2 days later, I was talking to her about dropping down in weight classes and what tournament I was going to once I got my shoulder healed up.
That's profound to have that level of support. She knew not to engage.
She's the primary reason for all the national titles. Roughly 10 years ago, we were talking, and she says, "Hey, how come you don't go to more tournaments?" I'm like, "Well, it takes time and money." And she goes, "Well, the kids are older. We have more time. We have more money. I thought you wanted to be a world champion." I'm like, "Well, I mean, yeah." And she's like, "Well, it's never going to get easier." A couple of days later, I sat down and told her what it meant: travel, time commitment, nutritionally, everything. And she just looked at me and she said, "Well, then go do it." So yeah, phenomenal support at home.
That's awesome. Josh, same question for you, man. How has the arm wrestling community and being a part of arm wrestling affected your overall journey in life?
I mean, so far, it's a lot of networking. I like people from all walks of life, like you said. I mean, I don't think I would have ever met Dan. I don't think I ever would have met one of my teammates and MCs at our tournaments. Wayne actually helped me get this house. So, I mean, just stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just the people you meet along the way. The journey has been pretty awesome.
I could have said it better myself. Steve, how about you?
Oh my God, dude. Changed my life completely, man, because that's all I do now pretty much is just pull and sponsor and collaborate with other people and super matches, traveling across the country, across the states, across the, just to set up super matches and tournaments. And it's like a every single second of the day type thing, really, So it's changed my life completely, and the people I've met too. And it's helped me a lot, so much, in comparison to anywhere and everywhere, between my diet too, because I was 165, then I went down to 154, and now I'm coming up to 176. So it's just, before I didn't really care about, where I was eating or anything else. Now I care a little bit more. Then I'm pulling a lot more, exercise a lot more. So not only that, but just meeting the people I've met, like James, James Reed and you and all the Empire guys and Paul Cruz, Steve Walker, Madison, the whole City Slickers and everybody, So it's been a blessing, man, honestly. Well, it's nothing, it's another, with pulling. So yeah, I love it, man. That's second of the day.
I mean, the community's better with each and every one of you. Dan, you hopped off of the question. The question was, how has the arm wrestling community influenced your overall journey in life?
I would say it kind of gave me another baby, something to work on, and create those goals to get fit again and all that kind of stuff. For me, running a business and all that, I've been going hard for a lot of years, working 6-7 days a week for freaking 20 years, and the whole arm wrestling thing has scratched the itch for me and kind of gave me an outlet really for just working a lot and kind of turned into like a little like I said, like a baby, something to nurture and grow with this whole league, that me and Josh has created and all that. I'm a builder by trade, so I like building things, and it's just naturally to this was sitting here, and it's just like we got this whole we got a state that don't really have but like one tournament a year, which is the national sit down tournament out there, with Steve Stanaway and Randy. I don't. Do you know the Stanaways, Luke?
I know who they are. I've never had the opportunity to meet them. National sit downs is very, very high on my priority list.
Yeah.
There's just the last couple of years, there's been something in the way that I just couldn't get to it. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to remedy that and add a sit down national title to the group as well.
That'd be cool. So that was my very first tournament, was the national sit downs, and I got in training with the Team Brutal, and then the guys were like, "Yeah, well, you ain't gonna, you might as well jump into it and go to the, it was like 2 months in. I went to my first tournament, but the Stanaways, they've been running that tournament for years and years and years, and that's another thing we're kind of blessed with, for sure, is having Steve and Randy, and all the stories. We see Steve every couple of weeks usually at practice, and hearing all the history. Because I think he started in 1968 or something like that, arm wrestling, and so we hear all the stories from when they started the WAF and all that stuff, and he was part of all that, and all those years of the countries coming together and whatnot. But anyways, back to the question. It's been a nice little a refresher for me, really, this whole arm wrestling thing. Something to work towards.
Hell yeah. I think that, one of the things that I've learned a little bit more, by being a participant in the sport, is that we are stronger together. That that your strength doesn't have to threaten my weakness. And, I'm still learning that process. And I figure, partnering and connecting with someone like Steve has really taught me that, even though there's some things that we may disagree upon, there's a lot more we do agree on, if given the patience to, sit there and listen to each other talk. And that really does speak volumes that what my goal is with this platform, my goal is with arm wrestling. If I can leave one stamp on it, is that it's proof that we can work together for a better future for the sport, on and off the table. And highlighting each of your experiences is just bolstering that effort so much. I'm grateful that I get to highlight you guys and share your stories on this. Now a little bit of a different segment of the show that I like to cover is, something that's not your normal question in the sport of arm wrestling, but what is a fun fact about you that your friends, maybe even your family, doesn't even know about, or people in the community of arm wrestling doesn't know about you? What's a fun fact about you that you want to share that's like, yeah, this is actually kind of cool, I'm pretty proud of this, or this is weird, I'm proud of it still nonetheless? Luke, let's start off with you. What you got?
God, I mean, usually I get asked that question at a business conference, and I can say, well, I'm a national and world level arm wrestler. Which always gets some great conversations.
The question just got personal.
Right. Yeah. I mean, nothing that really I guess my family wouldn't know, but, outside of really truly loving what I do as a career, I got very lucky there to trip and fall into a career that not only has it been great for me and my family, but I'm good at it and I really like it. I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I started woodworking, and started with the basic meat and cheese board, and then learned I could sell it for twice as much if I could spell charcuterie. and then went into, building tables and doing turquoise stone inlay and epoxy work. And now I'm working on my lathe to learn how to make bowls and platters and stuff. And it's very therapeutic for me, both mentally and physically. I've learned that most woodworkers hate sanding. It's the piece that they hate the most. I like it the most because I can completely mentally check out when I'm sanding. And there's not very many times during my day that I can just kind of turn it off. And then the other thing is, you run a sander by hand long enough, and it's really therapeutic, good recovery work for your wrist, elbow, and shoulders. So it works that way too. I do a little blacksmithing as well. So I legitimately started that hobby because I knew it would be good for my hand and wrist, swinging a hammer and beating steel. So, I started a hobby that would help arm wrestling. But yeah, otherwise, no real deep secret little things other than, I spend as much of my time outdoors in the mountains or scuba diving or whatever as I can to get away and rejuvenate. But
That's pretty cool, though. I've actually seen some of your work, man. I want to get a
that's
Luke
a table
Pulscher
I
original.
built.
There you go.
Very nice.
So,
Very nice. I want to get a Luke Pulscher original one of these days.
I like your house, Luke.
hey, thank you.
You have
Yeah, we
cathedral ceilings.
Just moved into this 2 years ago now. We had it built.
You have cathedral
Nice.
ceilings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very nice.
that looks beautiful. Actually, you know what? That's kind of a little bit like my house, actually, right, Dan?
Yeah, very similar.
Second floor. My second floor is my full bedroom, and it looks over. It's like a catwalk that looks over to the first floor.
Yep.
Mine
Our
is-
loft is
mine's
master
the-
bedroom and then just a loft.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, master bedroom, loft, and stairs to downstairs, and then it's a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 4-season, two
So-
French doors, and then the fireplace in the back room.
I have to show off my staircase.
Oh, wow.
So that's live edge walnut staircase that I built.
I was gonna say that
You
looks
built that.
light wood.
That was like custom made. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There's probably somebody that has prettier stairs than I do, but they didn't build them themselves.
I love that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like the light wood and the dark wood. I like the contrast in your house. It's a beautiful house.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, Steve, since you're the one talking right now, what's a little fun fact about you?
I don't go anywhere without a jacuzzi. I can tell you that much. I think you know that by now, Dan.
Oh yeah, I think it's public knowledge at this point now.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm a big jacuzzi guy. It doesn't matter. We're actually just going back and forth, about we're getting a villa, and she was like, "It's beautiful. It's right on the water. It's gorgeous." And it's like it shouldn't even be a question by now with her, but it's still a question. And I'm like, "Does it have a jacuzzi? Does it have a hot tub?" And she's like, "It's got a jetted tub." I'm like, "No, outside. Is there a hot tub or a jacuzzi by the pool or near the pool or on the deck somewhere where it's outside?" And she looks at me. I'm like, "I don't even know why you're showing me. I have no idea why you're showing me. I don't even know why you're showing me." I mean.
I
Yeah,
hate to be this man's travel agent.
Yeah, I'm a big jacuzzi guy. I just all the time, man. I mean, if I can be ocean, jacuzzi, if I could live in Mexico, I'll tell you that much. Jesus, I mean, but
There you go.
yeah, I have one here in my house. When we went to Montana, when we're going to Florida, when now we're going to the villa that has a jacuzzi and a pool, and we're right there, oceanfront, and everything else. But I'm a big jacuzzi guy. Anywhere I go, I just don't like any. Even when we went to the Tropicana, we got a place with the jacuzzi. It was only for 2 days, so we had to switch the place. We couldn't get it without a fucking jacuzzi. It was a pain in the ass, but whatever. It's
Jacuzzi's
Josh,
right
what
outside
about-
my back door, so you'll be fine if you come visit.
yeah. I was
There
gonna
you
say
go.
same here.
Win.
It's just
Big win right there.
I don't see how you can lose with that. With having that. It's perfect in any home. You should anybody and everybody should have one in their home. Honestly.
Josh, what about you? Fun fact about you.
I guess Dan probably knows this. So before the arm wrestling, before I guess any of my other hobbies, I used to be like a small time mobile DJ. So I used to do weddings, proms, all sorts of crazy stuff. But actually, that was probably the most stressful thing I have ever done. Tournaments are nothing compared to like, I don't know, make sure the right song is playing while two people walk down the aisle. Like that was like the most stressful thing ever for me ever. So that's why I had to give it up. It was losing hair, dude. It was bad.
You know what song to play at the right moment. You're like, I can't do this shit anymore. Can't do
Yeah,
it.
no. Crazy
That's
stuff.
fair. That's pretty cool though. Being a DJ is definitely it has its stresses. I can.
It had
definitely
good
imagine, yeah.
times. House parties were cool with
I
the
bet.
weddings. Whew. Couldn't handle
Never
it.
again, right? Never
No,
again.
couldn't
How about you, Dan?
Well, quick, Josh, tell them the cool stuff you do, man. Josh does competitive shooting,
Yeah, yeah. I
and
do
he's a
competitive
bad
shooting.
butt.
I'm okay. I'm getting there.
What
That's
do you
cool.
do?
What type of shooting?
I was just gonna say.
So handgun, rifle, 2-gun. Haven't done any 3-gun yet, but PCSL and USPSA shooting. Done a couple local comps at like I don't know, like FBI ranges and stuff.
Nice.
It's fun.
What type of guns do you use?
I have a Glock 17 with a hollow center red dot, and then I have a AR all decked out with optics and stuff.
Oh shit.
Good time.
When I was in college, I shot on the collegiate rifle team for a couple of years.
Okay.
Wow.
What did y'all use on there?
That would have been the 22 rifle at 50 feet with the 1-inch bull or 1-inch target, pin dot
Okay.
bullseye.
Nice.
Yeah,
Were you
like the
doing- were you
on
using,
shoot
like,
style
iron sight?
rifles.
Iron sight, or do you have a?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all iron sights. Peep and peep was what you shot for that.
You guys are speaking a whole nother language to me. I've never actually shot a firearm ever in my life.
What?
Yeah, 20.
I
people
know.
think, like,
I know.
People think like 22s when you hear a 22, everybody thinks like, oh, it's such a small. Let me tell you something. The 22 is probably one of the best like rifles you can shoot, I'd say. Honestly, I love the 22s.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know it sounds crazy. I have an axe wall in my backyard though.
There we go.
I love throwing axes. I love throwing knives. Pretty decent at it. My buddy made me a wattle axe wall. And I like sinking it. I gotta change out the boards because the center ones is kind of messed up. From just I actually still do it. It's one of my forms of recovery for arm wrestling.
Nice.
Keeps even though the arm doesn't straighten out anymore, which has challenged my axe throwing skills. It actually has. I've had to modify how I throw the axe.
Very nice.
So you know who else is a competitor shooter in the sport with that stuff is Keith Michelle.
Oh, word?
Oh yeah, he's a big time ref, right?
Yep.
Pretty cool.
So, Dan, what about you? What's your strange fact about you, or different, or weird, or whatever? Cool fact.
Well, I mean, like y'all said earlier, like your family knows the arm wrestling world probably don't know, but like, so I grew up a pastor's kid. My dad's a preacher. And a fun fact is my wife, she's actually a preacher's kid too. Her dad was a pastor growing up and all that. But I play music. That was kind of like my first love. I played in a Christian rock band for a bunch of years, and I played drums in that band, and of course I played guitar and bass and that kind of stuff. But that was like my passion for a lot of years. You know, we played out a lot and traveled and all that kind of thing. But still will eventually get back to playing. But arm wrestling kind of came into the picture, and so
Took over.
all my time is going into that now. And I'm taking a break from the
Hostile
music
takeover.
thing. Yeah. I miss the. I used to play a lot of basketball and stuff like that. So that's another thing with the arm wrestling thing. It took up that physical competition kind of thing, and
Got it.
that scratches that itch,
That's fair. I just wanted to shout out. We got Lucky Ones in the chat. What's up, Lucky? She's a big time supporter of this podcast. She's got a great show. Check her out on YouTube. Lucky Ones podcast, females in arm wrestling. Definitely, high energy and got quite the inspirational story herself.
She's a fellow Virginian.
Yeah, don't. We're not gonna talk about the national anthem this year. Oh, you were there, weren't you, Dan?
Dan
Yes, I was.
Oh,
I was
man.
there.
I played. So that was my DJ laptop, right? And I have a whole bunch
Oh
of.
my God! Talk
random
about playing the
music on
wrong
it,
song at
right?
the wrong time.
I
This
like.
was at sit downs.
So usually sit downs is in Yorktown, and they have like the fife and drum group play the national anthem, right? Last minute they canceled. I'm on the spot. Steve Stanaway's like, "You got to play the national anthem." It's like, okay, the national anthem has got to be on this DJ computer with all this like thousands of songs I had. So I'm like searching. Okay, national anthem. Oh, Jimi Hendrix should be a good guitar cover. Well, it happened to be like at Woodstock, and he was protesting the national anthem, and it sounded like Dead Cats, bro. It was bad. And I'm like playing it, and I'm looking around, everybody's looking at me. I'm like skipping through the song, and then I cut it off. I was like, and that's it.
I remember
Let's
that.
arm
I
wrestle.
remember you looking so mortified. Oh man,
It's terrible.
Like, how do you hide a man that large? He wanted to hide like an ostrich.
If I
with
could
his head
shrink
in the
down,
sand.
I was about to jump off the dock, bro.
Oh man. So before I let everybody go, I do want to promote one more event that's coming up real soon. Not this weekend. We already know that Virginia Arm Wrestling League is having their Chaos tournament. But also Steve Fernandez is having with New York Tristate Arm Wrestling on the 16th, Test Your Frame. Tournament and super matches. We're going to go over more of those next week. As to the super matches, we might have a couple of competitors on there on the show next week, and we look forward to talking more about it, but definitely stay tuned in that regard. Other than that, guys, do you have anything else you want to plug? Anything else you want to mention? Shout out, Luke.
It's not a plug, but I did just have to pull it up because I was curious where we were at for the night. And with election results starting to come in so far, Camilla is at 93 and Trump is at 210.
Yeah.
So, regardless of what your slant or hope for tonight is, that's where we're at so far.
You just made my night happy.
So I got a question for you guys before we sign off. So what when you're looking at this next year in the sport, is there anything that you're fundamentally changing about how you're going to approach the next year? And if so, what is it? And I'm happy to share mine when we're done.
I'll start if I can.
Go ahead.
I'd have to say next year is going to be a different change in the sport. It's going to be similar to what we did going to Montana, but it's going to be something where all the competitors go into one house. And I'm sure you guys seen UFC before, where they put all the competitors in one house pretty much, and everybody sleeps in one house, cameras all over the place. So we're trying to do the same thing. Robert Kelly's going to help us out, film the whole thing and set everything up. And there's going to be competitors all over the house. And obviously there's probably going to be 22 competitors because there's 11 on our side, 11 on theirs. Jacuzzi, the whole thing, the whole nine. And wake up every day, see how everybody feels. 2 different sections where people can train, by themselves. And then if other guys want to, train in the middle of the house together, then they can, just not on their money arm. So there's going to be, what I want to do is get more and different eyes on the sport, not just pullers. Pullers are always going to look and to see what's the differences, what's going on in arm wrestling in general. What we want to do to be able to grow the sport is you have to get those eyes that don't usually watch and what's different and what made them watch before. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys ever seen like Real World, that caught my eye too. I used to watch that. The UFC, when they got together in the house, I used to watch that too. It's the story, the backstory of every single one of these competitors. It makes you want to, know them more. It makes you want to cheer for them more because you're doing tree work, and this guy does tree work and he pulls too. So you can relate to that type of stuff, so that's really what I want to do. We captured a little bit of that by doing interviews with the guys, but not to the questions that I was thinking about afterwards that we should have done. And that's what I want to do in the new year. That's probably going to be around in May or June. And it's going to be, a little bit different. The way, it should bring out arm wrestling a little bit better for other people wanting to watch it and maybe even get into the sport even more. So that's what I think that I'll be doing next year.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Gentlemen, you guys are the guests in the show, so you guys get to go first.
Personally, I have the Arnold's in into February. I like to take a more, focused training approach to this year. Travel, maybe further. Last year, I was able to make it out to Tennessee and grip up with Adam Orzinski and Robbie Russell. I like to go, maybe to Florida or something, grip up with stronger dudes. Like Luke said, that's probably how I got where I am today. And then take the VAL as far as we can go for the year. That's it for me.
How about you, Dan?
Yeah, same thing. As far as the VAL, keep with our trajectory of that, keep growing it. We got a good foundation. This year I'd say it's a success. And the goal was just to kind of make it that spot on the East Coast. Will be the spot on the East Coast that everyone can come to and have a nice quality tournament. And as far as myself, same thing. Try to focus better on training, getting stronger and training and all that. And for me, my short-term goals or my goals are to climb the ranks in my state. I got a long ways to go, and just to keep getting stronger and try to stay injury-free. So, which means slowing down.
Impossible.
Yeah. Well, I got injured for about 9 months there and just wouldn't stop pulling. So I kind of had to just take it light, and it comes back. But yeah, keep on pressing.
My goals for this next year is going to be similar to these guys. What they're saying in regards to just getting out there, traveling a little bit more. I mean, I do travel a decent amount. I've been to Puerto Rico this last year. I've been to Montana. But there's some places that I haven't been that I would love to try to. I've been wanting to go back to Virginia. I want to go down to the Carolinas. I want to go to Florida, Texas, California, to arm wrestle. I would love to be able to hit all those places, but there's only so much time in 1 year to do all these things, right? So what I'm trying to actually do is find a way that I can do so at a partnership level with other entities and bring more eyes to the sport the way I have been doing. That is getting sponsorships. Some sponsors are arm wrestlers, some of them are non-arm wrestlers, and there are people in the wellness community that I'm in. As a massage therapist of 15 years and really big into networking, I really want to see myself leverage that a lot more. Because I've developed a pretty solid network over the years from coast to coast within just the world of wellness. And I think there's a lot of gains to be had within wellness. That's where my gains live. That's where they reside. I'm a firm believer that, train hard, recover even harder. That's one of my biggest taglines. and I can only train as hard as I do because I have such an emphasis on recovery. You know, different modalities that I do. You know, if you've been following me, I do a lot of cryotherapy, float therapy, red light therapy, different styles of therapies that I want to see more accessible for arm wrestlers, and do whatever I can to do so. The other thing is I have a annual event that I host. It is a barbecue that is pretty much a culmination of what this podcast is. It's just collaborating with local entities to get the word out of their businesses, but also to expose different people to the sport of arm wrestling and the arm wrestlers' families as well. I'm going to expand the barbecue. It's usually just like a challenge match event. This year, I'm going to, dabble in hosting it into a tournament. I am actually going to play around with the idea of it being a no elimination tournament for a full day of arm wrestling. I'm in the talks with a couple other people as to how I can safely run it and effectively run it. So that's one of the big things that I am working on. And stay tuned. It is going to happen in the beginning of June of next year. So we got plenty of time now to really put the wheels to the pavement on this one. So that's what I got going on. How about you, Luke? What do you got?
Well, primary goal is worlds. I want that world title. Big event that I'm focused on right now is the North American Championships in February. So I'm going to go win a North American title, add that to the national titles. It would be great this year if I could accomplish the trifecta, do national title and North American title and a world title all in the same year. Would be just pretty freaking cool. And then to do that, a couple of the things I'm changing is changing my weight class. I'm going to lean out a little bit and see if I can walk around between 180 and 185 and just do an easy water cut to 176. And in doing that, probably work on taking over most of the 176 in North America, because I think I can. And then the other big piece of it to allow me to do that is I'm going to be cutting back significantly on my reffing.
Okay. So you got to make sure we have enough good refs, in your stead, man.
I've been trying, man.
And to your earlier announcement about the refs, I actually was able to get the link on. If you take a look at it at the top corner of the screen, you can take your phone and take a picture of that, or take a screenshot if you're watching on your phone. This will take you to refs.com website. Check it out, guys. It's well worth looking at it. You got high quality refs that have many years of experience in the sport.
And on top of that, there's a full page dedicated to being a better ref. So there's video links, there's helpful hints that have been written down by some of the best refs in the world over time, and consolidated onto there to just tips and tricks to make refs better refs.
And we got one of your prodigies actually in the chat, Luke. Ryan Boussier is in the chat saying what's up. He's somebody who I had connected with fairly early on. He actually helped me out get to the Olympia back when I had qualified to the Olympia. That was my first time out in the West Coast. I definitely want to get back over there. I took a loss from some guys over there that I don't think I would take a loss from again. Also, Mike Nance is in the chat. What's up, man? Guy's been around forever. Luke, he says, "What's up to you, Luke, specifically?" Any other plugs that you got coming up? Events that are coming up? I know you guys. We already talked a lot about what you got coming up in the near future. For the rest of the year, I know for me, I got the super match with Conrad, but then after that, I got the Great American Bash. Talk about being in a stamina test. I've been working on my stamina like nothing else. So I really want to see where I stand against some of the best to do it at 176. So you will be seeing me there, both right and left.
I'll be there as well. Right.
Awesome. Awesome. I look forward to seeing you there. Luke, will you be there?
Where?
At the Great American Bash, Tennessee, by Lorraine Jenkins and
Nope.
Beast Mode.
I don't arm wrestle in December.
Oh, you don't?
Ever.
Okay. So you have an off season.
Yep. It's family time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fair enough.
I got to take a page out of your book, man, because I got to figure out when my off season is. I'm gonna just go. This is I put my toe in the water. I was like, no, I'm jumping all in.
Well, I've got kids in college and graduating college, and it's when they're home. So
That's fair.
I just take some time out and focus on business planning for the next year and family time, and that's my December.
How old are you, Luke?
I just turned 50.
Okay, nice.
Young.
I feel like it. Age is a mindset.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's what you do with the number, right? It's what you do with the number.
I agree with him 100%.
That was the other like alluring thing about this sport, man. When I saw with the age and how long you can go in this sport, like I was like, really gravitated towards that.
I can tell you from firsthand experience, I am a significantly better arm wrestler at 50 than I was at 25.
Wow.
I wish I found the sport at 25, man. I only found it.
I won.
Yep. Same thing. Same here.
I wish I found. I came into the sport at so I'm I'm 38 now. So I was 33. I was in my early 30s finding this thing. I wish I found it at a younger age, because I would have still been in it. But I guess it's timing. Timing is everything, right? Michael Nance is poking at Josh, saying he's like 80 years old. He's like a grandpa.
Button, actually.
Benjamin Button. There you go. Reverse agent.
Okay, so not to poke the bear on the whole presidential thing, but they just showed a picture of the Harris camp in Washington, D.C. It looks so sad.
That's awesome.
But, all right, fellas, I'm going to get off. So I really appreciate you inviting me on, Dan. I will be ready for 176 by the first of the year. So if you want to add to that list of people that you need to go back and get retribution to in the future, you can go ahead and put me on that list.
Oh, okay. Definitely. I might have to put your 176 reign of terror to a halt, though. So
get to work.
Oh, snap.
You better believe I'm working it all.
Good
Come
deal.
to Virginia.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, it was great visiting with all of you. Talk to you later.
Yes, sir.
See you later, brother.
Later.
All right. So there was just us four. Gentlemen, it is 11:10. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up, talk about, mention? Anybody you want to shout out? Anybody, any inspirations, to what you do? Please feel free to shout them out on this platform. I'm all for it.
What Steve was talking about earlier with the team versus team, that's something we thought about before, and dude, we would love to figure something out, maybe at a future event, even do like a super match, team versus team before an event, or we can talk about all that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we're going state to state, and we're going to Florida, see what it is. Things might change if we don't talk to anybody in Florida or something. And if you guys want to do something for next year, for Virginia, we'll see what it is. But I know you guys have really good pullers over there. I'd love to be over there too. Or if you guys want to come over here, we can set up a venue here. And the venues I have they're beautiful. I do hotels, restaurants all over the place. So it's on a different level. If you see what we did in Montana, it'll be even better with Robert Kelly when we do it over here, in Florida. So, but yeah.
Now, do you run the rankings for New York, Steve?
Say again?
Do you all run the rankings for New York
We
too,
use
or?
airs. We use airs.
Oh, so you use airs for the rankings for New York?
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, it's like a rating system, I would say, through Corey Miller.
It is, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we use it for our brackets, but
Okay, yeah.
but we handle our rankings.
Yeah.
We
We don't
really
have an official New York rankings system that's like designated for the state of New York. But we have a good idea as to who's at the top, like who's
Between the tri-state
number one
area, we
guy.
kind of know like who goes up against who in every tournament and who usually beats who. So where every guy's kind of like placed at 154, 165, 176, 187. Like there's a certain guy that usually pulls at 180, 198, but if he comes down to 187, he'd be a fucking beast,
Mm-hmm.
So we have guys like that. Dan's one of those sleepers that we have that doesn't seem like he should be pulling at 176, and he's way more than capable to pull at 176, so tear a guy's arms off. And Garrett Tupper, guys don't even want to pull him because the guy looks like he's 176, and he's a 154 guy, and he's an absolute beast, so there's I say there's a lot of different good pullers in every single weight class, and that's really what I want on you. I mean, in VA, I know you guys have so many different guys. You got from 154 all the way up. So that'd be great to do, honestly.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Right
on. We definitely need to make that happen. I think that's something that that's got to be on next year's agenda. After this, you guys can start up a chat to get it going, get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like we got to get you and Alec Guth hooked up too, man.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Super match.
Hell yeah. I would love that opportunity.
Did you ever pull Alec Guth, Dan?
Oh, yeah. I pulled him a few times. I pulled him at the first Knuckles Up qualifier. Not Knuckles Up, sorry. Arnold qualifier that High Five had. Gave him a little bit of hell, but he had the win ultimately on me. And then at Arnold's, we after pulled, and I realized where I needed to pull with him because I found where I was stronger. And he and I would go back and forth a little bit during that after pull, and then he and I pulled again after, albeit it was after him having an all-out war with Paul Italia at Travis Bajan's tournament. It's actually how I got that bad boy right there, beating him. I got the 176 weight class first place because I beat Alec Guth on that one. But albeit he did have a war, so I want to give him a fresh for fresh type of matchup between he and I, because I think that would be fun. I think that would be fun. I think that would be good. I think that I know he's gotten a lot stronger, but so have I. I've gotten much more technical, and I hear a lot of good things about him getting technicals as well. Listen, I wouldn't shy away from that challenge. I'd be happy to add that to the fuel in the fire. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Really do appreciate you sharing your time and your Tuesday night with me. And Steve, thank you as always, man. Montana was great. Can't wait for the next leg of the race. Florida, Virginia, Texas, California, look out because a nightmare is coming to you soon.
Josh and Dan, just reach out to me, man. Message me so we can we'll have a conversation about maybe doing something in the future or something like that, and doing a team versus team.
All right, yeah, we'll do that.
Virginia versus the City Slickers or something like that. That'd be good.
Hell yeah.
All right, guys.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
Our dudes.
Have a good one. Thank you for joining.